actually have some pretty good news for you guys, especially my viewers who are in California. California's new governor, Gavin Newsom, is completely getting rid of the death penalty. This is a very interesting step forward. It's very progressive. So let's take a look at this video and then we'll talk about it.
It's a conviction Gavin Newsom has long held. Here he is in 2013.
I think we should repeal the death penalty.
Now California's newly elected governor, Newsom plans to put a moratorium on the death penalty in the Golden State. Over the years, he's made his stance on corporal punishment known. First, the issues of race and mental health.
It's not a deterrent. There are racial components of that.
The governor argues that the death sentence is unequally and unfairly used on the mentally disabled and people of color. Another sticking point for Newsom, the possibility of innocent people being put to death.
Every year we read about this person, that person, another person that were exonerated. DNA tests prove that we're innocent.
But the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation says that's an outdated concern.
It's less today than it was, say, 15 years ago, with all the greater scrutiny that we have on forensic science.
And then there's the financial impact. The governor's office says the death penalty system has cost California $4 billion since 1978. Of all the states, California has the most people on death row.
We don't use the death penalty today. We are warehousing folks.
Yet death penalty proponents argue that keeping people on death row through several years of appeals is what costs so much.
In a capital case where there is no doubt who did it, which is most capital cases, you can get it done in 6 years.
By signing an executive order, Newsom will join governors of Colorado, Pennsylvania, Washington, and Oregon, who also use their power to suspend or delay executions.
I do not believe those executions made us safer.
That's a belief Governor Newsom also shares. Stephanie Elam, CNN, Los Angeles.
So you have to understand something that's really important about this conversation that people have regarding the death penalty. The death penalty is still kind of a popular issue in America in the sense that we're not one-sided on this issue. We're pretty split down the middle, and that includes both Democrats and Republicans. Let me give you guys my opinion about the conversation. I think the framing of the conversations that people have regarding the death penalty is faulty. And so, for example, if you watch this video, understand that that entire video was about historical facts, a bunch of other facts, some statistics, and that's it. But the framing of it is that facts don't care about your feelings, so let's just focus on what the facts are. I really don't like the whole thing about facts don't care about your feelings. And so when people talk about the death penalty, they just focus on the financial costs and, you know, how long does it take? And have we been wrong about it? What do the DNA tests show? Right? We just focus on the facts. We don't focus on the feelings. And so many conservatives are buying into this, and a lot of Democrats too. Facts don't care about your feelings. I don't like that framing of conversations. And let me explain to you why. Every progress that we can think about in history, in U.S. history, has been led by not facts, but feelings. And let me give you an example. Look at, for example, slavery. Abolishing slavery was a very progressive idea in the sense that we progressed as a society. It's progressive. I know a lot of people are going to think, oh, well, Lincoln was Republican, right? Right. That's absolutely stupid. You have to look at, there's a difference between Republican, Democrat, and progressive and conservative. Those are two totally different things. One thing is party lines, and one thing is has to do with a model of how government should work. That was a progressive policy, 100% a progressive policy. It changed the status quo dramatically. So that being said, what led to the abolition of slavery? What was it? The facts? Consider the facts. Slavery is economically beneficial for white people. Okay. What else? That's about it. I mean, there was nothing wrong about slavery in the sense of financial aspects, legal aspects. Every single angle you look at slavery, there was nothing wrong with it, except the obvious one. It feels wrong. We shouldn't have slavery. It's not right. It's not morally right. We as a society should grow from that and understand that there were many people at the time, and still today, that think like slavery is, slaves are property. Like, what are you doing? Why are you taking my property away? You can't take my stuff away, right? Like, people thought that way. And to an extent, that was wrong. People looked at that and they said, I don't agree with that. We need to move from that. And that's how progress in every area works. Women's rights. Consider the women's rights movement. A democracy led to people deciding, hey, let's vote in representatives that give women the right to vote, because it doesn't seem right that women are put at such a low level and men are put at such a high level. It doesn't make any sense. We need to make this fair and equal. Women should have the right to vote. And so, were there any facts to justify that? No. You don't need any. It's how progress works. You realize that this is just wrong. This is wrong. We need to move forward. Society decides it's wrong. And I know a lot of people think like, you can't, how does society judge what's right and wrong? Society over time just develops in a very interesting way. And society can tell like, hey, we shouldn't do this. Hey, we should do this. And a lot of people, especially religious fundamentalists, they'll say things like, oh, we need to, it's just people recognizing the principles of the Bible or whatever. Women's rights, slavery, the abolition of slavery, like, not justified in the Bible. I don't know where people get that. Like, give me your verse, right? Give me a verse. I'd love to. I'd love to have a conversation about how slavery was definitely justified in the Bible and women were definitely put in a low position in the Bible. So, anyways, understand this. The conversation in this video was all about finances and DNA tests and science, right? The question isn't about is the death penalty economically efficient, and is it, are we really good about accurately depicting whether or not someone actually killed someone? That's not the conversation that progressives should be having. The conversation should be this. Is it right to kill someone in jail who is not a threat? Is it right to just kill someone? Or is that considered now barbaric? Well, by every other developed nation standards, almost every other developed nation, at this point, every other developed nation, except Saudi Arabia is not really. Understand this. They decided the death penalty is wrong. Society has decided, no, we're not doing that anymore. And has that led to any problems? No, absolutely not. In fact, they view prison not as this temporary place before you die, right? They see prison as like this, we need to reform the person. We need to help the person grow, give them therapy, let them, socially or interact with other people socially. Like, we need to teach them about what's right and what's wrong. We need to teach them, about like there's so much involved in the prisons in other countries except the U.S. The U.S. You're a bad person, so stay in your jail cell and do nothing for the rest of your life until you die, right? That's how U.S. works. That's not morally acceptable. And progressives look at that and they say, yeah, I don't like that. Let's move on. So I don't care about your finance crap. I don't care about your DNA tests. My feelings don't care about your facts. I want to move forward. I have this view of what society should look like. And the same guy, by the way, goes for universal health care. Understand this, guys. Universal health care, facts don't care about your feelings. Universal health care is objectively cheaper and more efficient. Objectively more efficient. Look at any other developed nation. There are three things that every other developed nations have that we don't. They have less deaths in hospitals, far less. We have about 62,000 deaths per year related to people who don't have access to basic health needs, whereas other countries have less than 100 on average. You have other countries that have more popular healthcare systems and health insurance systems. Well, it's only one health insurance system. It's universal health care. And it's more popular by every standard, every measure and every standard. And number three, why is it that every other developed nation has half the cost as we do? So those three reasons objectively prove that Medicare should be for free. However, put those aside, for example. Let's presuppose that healthcare was actually worse, like universal healthcare was worse. The conversation shouldn't be around, is universal health care economically efficient? The conversation should be, should we let someone die if they don't have access to because they don't have enough money? Should we let someone die because they don't have enough money? And society in every other developed nation decided, yeah. And think about the first society, like I think it was Norway in like 1932 or something, where they passed universal health care. And you know, that country didn't know what the cost was going to be. They didn't know what they were stepping into. But they did it anyways because they realized this is an obvious human right. People can't be dying because they don't have enough money. That's stupid. Healthcare needs to be distributed not according to who has the most money, but according to who has the most need for healthcare. Because it's healthcare. I'm not talking about iPhones. I'm talking about healthcare. So, yeah, I don't like the question, but nonetheless, let's talk about the facts for a second here, because the governor, Gavin Newsom, yeah, that was his name, is in a sense right here about this. We have been wrong before. And so the question, and the guy that responded in response, who was the conservative that was arguing for the death penalty, said, well, our DNA systems are way better and everything. It's not about that, because that's what people said in the 50s and the 60s. Well, our science is so much better and everything, right? It's so much more accurate. Yeah, but we can't tell if it is actually accurate until like 40 years down the road. Like we can't test your measures until way further down the road, because that's how it worked with the philosophy developed in the 50s, right? People were like, yeah, you know, our science is right. Everything's good. And then, you know, 50 years down the road, we find some problems with the science, and that the science has developed it has developed a lot more, and we can say like, hey, 50 years ago, these people should be exonerated. Oh, but we killed them. So the framing of that is wrong. Also, it costs a lot of money. And the guy said, well, it costs a lot of money because these people keep appealing their own deaths. You know why people are appealing their own deaths? Maybe because they're going to die, and because they have the legal justification to do so. You have the right to appeal. You have the right to appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court, guys. And eventually, they're going to deny your appeal if you don't have a good one. And so, if you go through 6 appeals, that's simply because courts are ambivalent about their answer. And they say, we need to go to a higher court here. We need to go to a higher court. It's a controversial thing, but you can't say like, oh, we need to restrict the limits of the number of appeals. That's ridiculous. That's the most unfair thing I've ever heard. Like, oh yeah, for death penalty people, like, just freaking kill them. That's what the guy's saying. Just kill them. Just don't let them blab their mouth and talk about how they're innocent or whatever. Let's kill them, right? Gosh, people are disgusting. Utopia for Realists really should be the first book you read if you want to know more about progressive policies. To get your free audiobook, go to the description below and click on the link to sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com.